Okay, today I'm gonna discuss on how one easy way to make updates via the update wizard in EDC. There's many ways to go about that, different situations. I'm just gonna tell you one of them, but it could apply to many other ones too. So, okay, so let's start EDC here. Okay. Now, say you have a customer that wants to update some part of their box data. Say they want to add new descriptions. Okay, you may perhaps you had an initial data entry, but not all the fields were there, so now you need to update the descriptions. Now it could go in different ways. It could be that the customer already had an Excel sheet or a CSV file at their end ready to go, and then they send it to you, and then you just run it through the wizard pretty much, and it works. Um, could be different ways. They don't have maybe those latest data that you have here at the record center, and they want to start from there to update something. This is the example I'm going to use today. So um, say they want to update the descriptions, right? But they don't have an Excel sheet to start from or something like that. So you want to send them this. So what we can do simply is say I'm going to use my demo D customer here. So if I go to the customer information module, there's an easy way here. If I find my customer, here it is. Now I can go through the file menu and export some box data. I could export all, but in this case, say I don't want to export everything. I just want to export, say, the boxes from one particular department that they want to update. Okay, um, so export, yeah, okay, I go yes. Include withdrawn items, that means destroyed items or deleted items. It could be yes, depending on the situation, but for me, I'm going to say no. Okay. Um, Now here you have the choice to choose from a pre-made report that was already in the system. I made one earlier on, import, export. I'm going to delete it and recreate it for you here. So let's say I don't want to use some of those. Because the thing is, when you want to update information, uh, most of the, like, there's some mandatory fields that are required for the update to happen. But the most important, I would say, is probably the RC number. So you need to make sure the RC number is there. So, and as long as you got, just some fields to identify the actual box or file, because that works for file as well. Um, then after that, all you need to put in is just the updated data. You don't need to have everything. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a new report here. Uh, Import export. You could call it whatever you like, but I'm choosing that. So I need the RC number, right? So I'm gonna put that to include in there. I could put the number if I want. I don't really have to, but in some cases you do need it, so why not put it out? And you could put other fields in here, but like I said, you don't really need to, because all you really want is something to reference what you're updating. And the RC number and the number is usually all you need. So I'm just gonna choose that me for now. I'm gonna go OK. And now I'm gonna choose that report. Do I want to export all boxes? No, not in that case. You could say yes, and you could go back in your Excel sheet and delete some records if you wanted to. There's no harm to that, but I'm just going to go with no. And I'm going to search here, for example, just the boxes from a certain department. Okay, let's say I'm going to choose, it doesn't really matter. Let's choose general and see what we get. Okay, now I got those boxes. Fine. So I want to export all the boxes from that department because, say, for example, I want to update the description on those. So I'm just going to go OK here. Export directory. I'm just going to put the file on my desktop for now. No maximum record, that's fine. I'm not going to split department in separate files. Pretty much the rest can stay normal. I don't touch any of those options unless I really need to. So I'll go OK here. Okay, so my data is exported now. If I minimize EDC, here's my file. It's a CSV file, by default. Some people update in Excel files as well. That's fine, but I think CSV is better for a few reasons. It's easier to check some errors inside of them sometimes, or there's other tools to play with CSVs that makes life a bit easier. And also, if you import a lot of data, the CSV imports are a bit faster. So I like to use CSV. So I'm going to open that file, and here it is, right? Here's my RC number and my number from the boxes that I exported. Now, like I said, say I wanted to update the description on those. So I'm going to create a new line here, a new header description. And I'm going to add some, you know, some new descriptions. Now these could be populated from another Excel sheet, say, that you're copying from, and or however you do it, it doesn't really matter. So for now, I'm just gonna, input some descriptions here. It could be anything. Just for our example, I'm gonna put anything. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I got my new descriptions. But now at this point, you could put a bunch of other fields if you wanted to update also the start date, say, or something else. You could decide to put other fields here. Um, but anything you need to update needs to be in that sheet. Those of you that have worked with the wizard before, you know that there's a left and a right column. When it comes time to update, you can't put anything in the right column anyway. That's going to be updated. So everything you need to update needs to be in that sheet here. So I'm going to go OK here. I'm going to save this. Yeah, with Excel it takes about 5 times. Okay. Now I got my new data in here. Now I just basically want to update my boxes. So at this point, pretty simple. I go to my box and file maintenance module, go File, Import with Wizard, and here I got a CSV file, not an Excel document, so I'm going to choose that. I'm updating boxes, so that's fine. I'm going to choose my CSV file. Here it is. It was on my desktop. Now, first line contain headers. Yes, it does, because I had my headers at the top that says, description, RC number, and all that. Put that in there. The separator is always a comma. Delimiter is always a double quote, like this. I go next. Okay, here, now I have to choose my customer. I'm going to put it on the right side, because basically what's on the left side is what's inside my sheet, and what's on the right side is default values that I'm using throughout the records. Okay, so the customer is for all those records, so I'm putting it on the right side. I do have the RC number in the sheet. I'm going to choose it. I have my number as well. I'm going to choose it. And I have my description, my new description that I've put. There you go. Right, now, assuming I got everything here okay, then I can go next. Right, I only want to modify my box data, so that's what I click on. Next, okay, here I have to test my import, just to make sure that everything is okay, that my syntax, and that I didn't forget anything for the import to go. So I click test. Oh, and I got some errors. And here they are, right? So activity not found, department not found, doc type, volume. So as I said earlier on, to make any updates in EDC or to make any imports from scratch, EDC requires some default values, there's some mandatory fields that need to be there for those updates to happen, or imports. And so these are the ones, actually, most of them. So anytime you're missing some of those default values, they will always show up like that in the test. So I'm missing the activity, the department, the doc type, which now is the record series, and the volume. So I'm going to close that report and go back. Here we go. So I was missing all those values. These values are not in my sheet. So it's okay for me to put them on the right side here. So the status or the activity, I'm going to choose pre-add. These, like I said, because they're not in my sheet, they're not going to be used in the actual update itself. The wizard requires them, but they're not going to be, the updated data is not going to be choosing those values. So in a sense, I can kind of put anything I want in there. It doesn't really matter. But for the department, say, it's always better to put, even though it doesn't really matter because the update's not going to use that, it's always a better idea to choose something that you already have in the system. Most uh, most record centers have a type that's called select, or it could be general or others, you know. But so I'm going to choose something that would already exist in my system, such as select. The reason for this is that even though the update is not using that, if I go through the import with that or the update, um, EDC is going to add those values to the system if it doesn't find them already. So that's why it's better for me to choose something that exists, even though I'm not using them. Because I don't want to add, like if I was just putting like a department like this and a sub-department like this, well, EDC would add those values as valid departments and sub-departments in my system for later use, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to choose select here, because this is a value that I got. Same for record series. And my volume, 1.2, is something that's very common. Okay, so let's try again now. Still box modify, I'm going to go next, and test, see what we get now. Okay, I got no errors. No record added, that's what I wanted. I have one record updated. By the way, that test will only always test with the first record in the sheet. So even if I have 10 files to update or 10 box, it's not going to say 10 records updated. This is just the test, and because it only tests with the first record, it's only going to say one record updated or one record skipped. If I had an error here, it might tell me the error and it might tell me that I have a skipped record. Okay, so I got one record updated. That's good. No errors. Okay, so I go close. Then it shows me another preview. It shows me the preview of that first record, actually, what it would have put in, what the updated record would look like after the update. And my description was just that, you know, so that's what it put in. So I'm going to go close here, and we're just going to finish that. Cannot be undone. It's true that it cannot be undone. Actually, nowadays, it can be undone. I think there's a way to undo some imports, but assuming it cannot be undone anyways, I'm gonna go yes, put my password again, and click enter. And here we go. Now I do have the final report with the real number. It updated 10 records. So now I know that my update was right. And so that's basically all there is to it. I was mentioning earlier on that there's a way to undo some imports. Okay, that's that function here, but that's only, I think, if you create an import, not an update. So we're not going to talk about that now. So forget about what I said about this. So that's it. That's basically the process I would go about to, import, update data in EDC. The same process can be done with files. Um, so if you look at that video again, you'll see it's just a matter of basically of just exporting the part of the data that you need. Most likely just the RC number and the number. And but depending on what kind of update you want to do, there's no hurt on, like I said, exporting other fields and then maybe playing with them if you need to for some other reason. But at the very basis of it, it's just the RC number and the number most of the time that you need to export. And from there, you know, you you edit your CSV sheet any which way you like, and then you re-import. And that's about it. Okay, talk to you later.